You are 19 when the outbreak begins. You're a junior analyst at the CIA field office, fresh from university with a degree in international relations and a security clearance that still feels unreal. The morning briefing is routine until it isn't. Reports from multiple continents simultaneously. Coordinated emergence. Not random infection clusters, synchronized patterns across 7 countries within a 72-hour window. The intelligence suggests something deliberate. Engineered. Intentional. Your supervisor, Agent Morrison, assigns you to track infection vectors and point-of-origin analysis. You're given access to classified satellite imagery, epidemiological data, genetic samples, and financial records of pharmaceutical facilities. You spend 72 hours without leaving the office. The fluorescent lights blur your vision. Your hands shake from caffeine and fear. The patterns become undeniable. This wasn't natural occurrence. Someone released this deliberately. The question is who and why. You brief Morrison on your findings. Your voice cracks presenting analysis you're not supposed to understand at this career stage. He listens without interrupting, taking notes, his expression unreadable. When you finish, he tells you that you're being transferred immediately to a containment coordination unit. Your career is accelerating in ways that feel wrong and predetermined. You're 19. You should be learning through gradual progression. Instead, you're being moved to the center of something massive and catastrophic. The containment unit is a converted warehouse in an undisclosed location. 30 analysts working in rotating shifts around the clock. Morrison briefs the entire team. This outbreak is spreading exponentially across all models. Governments are failing systematically. Military responses are proving inadequate. The CIA is coordinating with defense departments internationally and with allied intelligence agencies. Your job is to track infection spread in real time and recommend intervention strategies that might actually work. You're assigned to the Eastern Sector Monitoring System. Hundreds of data points feeding into your screens constantly. Cities turning red as infection percentages climb toward critical thresholds. You watch civilization collapse in accelerated real time through epidemiological models and satellite imagery. A city of 2 million becomes 90% infected in 6 weeks. Then another major metropolitan center. Then another. The pattern repeats. The speed increases. The first time you recommend something, it's a containment protocol for a major metropolitan region. The infected population in the area is approaching critical mass where coordinated attacks become inevitable. You suggest sealing borders, establishing military perimeters, and establishing supply lines for trapped civilian populations. Morrison takes your recommendation directly to the director. Within hours, it's approved officially. 48 hours later, satellite imagery shows military cordons being established exactly where you recommended. Your analysis became operational military reality. People live or die based on lines you drew on maps. You're 22 now and you've been promoted to senior analyst. The promotion came with different responsibilities entirely. You're no longer just tracking data and presenting findings. You're making strategic recommendations that directly shape military response operations. You present quarterly briefings to 4-star generals and Defense Department leadership. They listen intently. They implement your suggestions. You understand now that your words have become military orders. Your team has expanded to 15 people. You have junior analysts under you now, people with the same uncertain hands and confused expressions you had 3 years ago. You remember not understanding the weight of what you were looking at. Now you have responsibility for teaching them while knowing exactly what every number means. A recommendation you make will determine whether a region gets reinforced or abandoned. Whether people live or die based on your analysis and strategic assessment. The infected are exhibiting behavioral changes that shouldn't be possible. Coordination. Pack hunting strategies. Selective targeting of military installations. They're evolving rapidly or someone is controlling them through some mechanism you don't yet understand. You spend weeks analyzing video footage frame by frame. Movement patterns suggest possible neural interface technologies. Pheromone communication networks. Something beyond standard viral infection. You compile a comprehensive brief and present it directly to the director. She listens in complete silence for 40 minutes. When you finish presenting, she tells you that you're being promoted to operations officer immediately. You'll be coordinating field responses and military operations directly. You'll have personal authority to call military strikes. To authorize civilian evacuations. To make the strategic calculus required for survival. You're 22 years old. You feel the weight of it compressing your ribs, making breathing difficult. Your first field operation involves a research facility suspected of housing infected scientists still conducting experiments. Intelligence suggests they're creating something worse than the standard infected. Your job is analyzing the satellite data and authorizing the strike or recommending alternative approaches. You review thermal imaging for 6 hours straight. You calculate civilian casualties based on proximity modeling and population density studies. Estimated 23 civilians in surrounding buildings. Estimated outcome probability of stopping whatever is happening inside, 78% success rate. You authorize the strike. The facility is completely leveled by drone strikes. Thermal imaging shows the aftermath in real time. The research equipment is destroyed beyond salvage. The infected researchers are confirmed dead through biological signature analysis. The civilian casualties are estimated at 19 through body heat signatures. You read the detailed reports. You file them in the system. You move to the next operational briefing without adequate processing time. You're 25 and you've been promoted to Deputy Director of Field Operations for the entire Eastern Sector. You're the second highest authority in the region. You make strategic decisions that impact millions of people across multiple countries. You recommend which cities get full protection resources, which regions get sealed completely, which populations get evacuation priority, which zones get abandoned to infection. There's a civilian shelter housing 15,000 people in a zone of high infection density and deteriorating military control. Intelligence analysis suggests the perimeter will be compromised within 4 weeks based on infection rate acceleration patterns. You have resources for complete evacuation of all residents or partial evacuation with military fortification of the facility. Partial evacuation means extracting 6,000 people and leaving 9,000 to be protected by military perimeter. Fortification success rate is estimated at 42% based on comparable scenarios. Complete evacuation requires diverting resources from 3 other operational sectors, potentially compromising their defensive capabilities and costing more lives across the broader operational zone. You choose partial evacuation with fortification strategy. 6,000 civilians are transported to safer zones. 9,000 remain behind. You calculate that the diversion of resources would cost more lives across the entire theater of operations. The utilitarian calculus. The ethical mathematics of managing survival on a regional scale. It makes sense. The numbers support the decision. 3 weeks later, the perimeter fails catastrophically. You watch satellite imagery in real time of infected breaking through defensive positions in coordinated waves. You watch thermal imaging signatures disappear as estimated 97% of the remaining population transforms or dies. You file the comprehensive casualty report. You update regional casualty statistics. You brief the director. You move to the next operational decision. Your director retires under pressure from the administration. Command moves you up. You're 26 and you're the director of all CIA field operations during the apocalypse. You command thousands of analysts across multiple continents. You coordinate directly with military leadership and allied intelligence agencies. Your recommendations shape government response across 3 continents and multiple operational theaters. The infected population patterns are becoming less random. There's definite intelligence behind coordinated attacks on strategic locations. Military bases. Communication hubs. Supply centers. Power generation facilities. Someone is orchestrating this systematically. Your analysts spend weeks connecting intelligence threads. They find the connection finally. A rogue cell within the original research program has been amplifying infection through targeted bioweapon releases. They want civilization to collapse completely. You brief the president directly in a secure situation room. She asks what you recommend based on everything you know. You tell her that eliminating the cell requires a military operation deep into the dead zone. High casualties. High infection risk for special forces. No absolute guarantee of success despite probability modeling. She asks what happens if you authorize nothing. You tell her the orchestrated collapse accelerates. They win. Civilization continues declining. The rogue cell's influence expands. She authorizes the operation without hesitation. You coordinate it personally from command center. 12 special forces teams. 300 soldiers equipped with tactical gear and experimental infection resistance protocols. You watch thermal imaging as they move through infected corridors in darkness. 3 teams get separated in coordinated ambushes. Infection spreads through 2 of them within minutes. 1 team breaches the final containment zone and completes the objective. 23 soldiers survive the entire operation. You read the casualty report carefully. 277 soldiers dead. 23 surviving with elevated infection markers being monitored for potential immunological response. You file it comprehensively. The operation was tactically successful. The infected coordination collapses systematically. Attacks become random again. Civilization stabilizes into a different configuration than before. You're 27 and you're sitting in the director's office processing briefing materials on vaccination protocols and distribution strategy. The vaccine shows 68% efficacy rate. It's not perfect, but it's something resembling hope. You're reviewing distribution priority matrices. Military personnel get it first. Civilian populations second. By region. By strategic importance. By economic necessity. Your father reaches out through secure communication channels. He's infected. He knows what that means. He's in a military facility receiving monitoring protocols and experimental treatments. He's asking if you can get him vaccine priority. You review his location and case file. He's not in priority sector. You could authorize his transfer to a priority facility. You could recommend him for early vaccination trials and get an exception. You don't authorize it. The protocols exist for necessary reasons. Conflict of interest is not something you can allow to compromise system integrity. You respond through encrypted message that his facility will receive vaccines according to established priority scheduling. You don't visit him. You don't authorize exceptions. You maintain the system's integrity even as it processes your own father. He turns 3 weeks before vaccines arrive at his facility. You receive notification through standard casualty reporting systems. You update your personal file notation. You continue working without interruption. The intelligence community wants you to lead something new entirely. Reconstruction coordination. As infection rates drop and vaccine efficacy increases, civilization needs systematic rebuilding. You're being asked to run a new branch. The Strategic Reconstruction Authority. You're 27 and you're being asked to rebuild the world from infection-scarred rubble. You accept the position. On your first day, you sit in a new office with new maps showing resettlement zones, resource allocation networks, and strategic priority regions. Your predecessor left comprehensive documentation. You read through it methodically and completely. There's a decision matrix for contested regions. Areas where infected and survivors remain in difficult balance. The recommendation is to establish defensive perimeters but not invest in restoration. These zones are not worth resource costs. Better to let them remain buffer areas. The infected populations stabilize eventually. Survivors reach evolutionary equilibrium with their environment. The system works. You recognize this logic from years of previous decisions. It's the logic you've been using operationally. Utilitarian calculus. Strategic mathematics. The greatest good for the greatest number. Except now you're looking at regions on maps where thousands of people live permanently. Not evacuating them. Not saving them. Managing them as permanent buffer zones and sacrifice areas. You think about the shelter with 15,000 people. 9,000 remained. You think about your father's final message. You think about the choices that seemed necessary at the time. You don't change the policy. You file it as approved strategy. What choice do you have? The reconstruction can't succeed if infected zones aren't managed strategically. The mathematics still works perfectly. The ethical framework still holds logically. The system still functions exactly as designed. You're 27 and you've moved from analyzing data to making strategic decisions to directing global reconstruction operations. The teenager who arrived at the CIA with trembling hands is completely gone. What remains is someone who understands that survival requires impossible choices made routinely. Tomorrow there will be briefings, strategic recommendations, resource allocation decisions. You'll make them the way you've made all the others, with complete knowledge of consequences and absolute certainty that you have no other acceptable option. The infected are contained. Civilization is rebuilding systematically. The system is working exactly as designed. And you are the system now.